Hello everybody and welcome to the Learn session, co-creating a platform model to support a network of hubs. My name is Michelle, and first of all I'd like to introduce you to our co-facilitators. We've got Lara Friedman. Lara, if you would like to wave, say hello. Helen James, and a big shout out to Heather Brown, who'll be moderating for us. And thank you so much for joining us today, wherever you are in the world. We will be showing some slides in English, but the slides have been translated into Spanish and French, and Heather will be popping a link to these slides so you can follow them in the chat function of the platform. So we only have 45 minutes, and during that time, we would like to update you on how Start Network is evolving to meet the strategic ambition that we set out in Start Evolves. You may recall all the way back from 2017 that Start Evolves was a process that we went through with members that resulted in a paper, and that paper presented our future vision and the process of change. Heather will also be sharing a link to that as well, should you be interested. But today, we want to specifically share what we are learning around developing the platform model. There will be some time to ask questions at the end, but we also encourage you to share your questions and, importantly, your insights throughout the time with us today. And before we finish, we will also update you on some next steps and how you can get involved, which will include attending our build session if you haven't already signed up on the 18th of November. So before we talk about what we're referring to as the platform and the platform model, let's remind ourselves of the vision and the purpose of Start Network. So we are about system change. Start Network is about system change. And together with our members, international NGOs, national NGOs, local NGOs, all of us here today, our aim is to transform humanitarian action. Our vision, as it says here, is locally led system, a system that is accountable to people affected by and at risk of crises. But to achieve this, we need a substantial change to the current network structure, evolving from the centralized entity you see today to a dispersed, distributed international network of hubs who operate nationally and regionally. And that's where the platform comes in. The platform will be a fundamental mechanism in transforming all aspects of the humanitarian action system, how it's anticipated, financed, deployed, and it's hoped that everyone here today will benefit from that support. So let's talk about the platform. So as we set out on the journey, picking up all of the conversations and all of the discussions that have happened since 2017, we realised that we didn't actually have a shared understanding of what we meant by the term platform. Perspectives differed whether you had been with Start Network for 5 years or 2 months, what language you spoke, and where you were based, your geography. So we thought it would be helpful to confirm that definition and reaffirm why it's necessary. We've already learned from COP26 that no single agency can bring about the changes we would all like to see in the humanitarian system. We need hubs and members to collaborate on a global scale, and the platform is how we're going to do this. The platform is not a digital infrastructure, although services or solutions, as we're now calling them, may be offered digitally. In some of the literature you may have seen earlier, we refer to a service provider model. However, in recent conversations with hubs, we learned that this terminology just sounds too transactional and linear and doesn't really reflect that spirit of putting communities at the centre of everything we do. So for today, we're going to refer to solutions or support rather than services. So the platform is an operating model. It's an operating model where systems, processes, technology and capabilities all combine globally to reduce duplication and amplify impact, where hubs learn from each other and solutions are aggregated to benefit every level of the network. The platform will add value to the hubs through what we're calling network-wide solutions. What it looks like in practice is still evolving. It's really exciting, and this is the area of our work. We would love your feedback and continued engagement. So why is this needed? And I'm going to refer a little bit to some governance, but I understand there has been a Learn session today. It's where you'll have learned a little bit more about our evolution. But the platform will really support this push of power and resources to a dispersed network of networks. The dispersed network that you see on the right will see a scaling of the hub models that we're currently prototyping. We're planning to expedite the scaling. So instead of a structure where Start Network consists of a team largely based in the UK with international and local members, there'll be a group of hubs globally dispersed, united by common purpose and vision. Local and international organisations and stakeholders would join a hub in their region, and that hub will be a member of the Start Network family of hubs. And this network of hubs will be underpinned by principles of equity, parity, decolonisation, and peer support. This will all demand a mindset shift if we really want to achieve that reality of a locally led humanitarian system that is accountable to people affected by and at risk of crisis. So let's imagine the future. On the right-hand side, we've moved from a centralised entity to a network of hubs, operating nationally and regionally, as I've mentioned. Hubs will be owned by their members and self-governing as much as practically possible. Membership and humanitarian action will exclusively be organised through hubs, which will include and cater to all current and prospective members. Hubs themselves will take the form of a consortium hosted by a hub member or be an independent charity in its own right. On the left-hand side, there is a picture which represents the network of networks.
Sorry, can I just jump in one moment? Just to say, the slides that you're reading from, Michelle, are a little bbit behind the slides that everyone's seeing.
Okay.
So it might be a bit confusing when you're saying right and left. It's up to pace now.
Okay, thank you. So on the left of the slide, there is a picture which represents a network of networks, which centres around this global collaboration and this network effect, where hubs are participating and working together to reach all of those users and to enable all members to leverage investment and increase impact. But for this network that we see on the left to act as a coherent movement, that circle of impact, the focus will be on identifying and playing to the strengths and diversity of each of those hubs that you see to deliver local solutions, whilst identifying where it makes sense for solutions to also be offered at a network-wide or global level. And this is where we can avoid duplication and increase the likelihood of scalability across national boundaries. The platform operating model itself will be managed by a dispersed global team, predominantly based in the global south. This virtual team will work with the hubs to ensure necessary functions, skills, and technology are in the right place to deliver network-wide solutions. But these network-wide solutions won't necessarily be delivered by the virtual team themselves. The hubs will also be offering solutions to the wider network, should they decide. Now, underpinning this approach, we will be promoting a digital culture, integrating technology into all of our solutions. So the platform will be working effectively then when resources are in the right place at the right time, so that the network can work at scale, and when decisions can be taken by those affected by a crisis, demonstrating a real power shift. So what might these solutions look like? So drawing on our recent experience of working with our 5 prototype hubs, a lot of thinking and ideas have started to be gathered as to what support or solutions hubs will need from inception to startup and then beyond. So some of these solutions or support are already being offered to the existing hubs, with new support constantly being looked at. It is these solutions or areas of support that are likely to be delivered using the platform. And this slide consolidates some of the ideas that we've already gathered and the solutions we're already offering. These are by no means set in stone though, and we encourage you to attend the build session on Thursday, where you'll be invited to get into the more detail of the solutions you think might be best offered by the platform to achieve this network effect. But let's quickly look at these one by one. So the first one, so support to hubs to access and set up global financing products. Some of you may already recognise this as disaster risk financing, and of course the Start Ready initiative, which was launched at COP26. Membership and governance support, supporting hubs to set up governance and membership structures and systems, similar to the work we're doing with Pakistan at the moment, as they work to welcome local members. Network infrastructure and standards, supporting consistency across the network, like maintaining the global due diligence framework. And then brokering partnership and learning, facilitating peer-to-peer learning and on new partnership opportunities, for example, the new skill grant initiative for new local members. This is just a flavour of where we've come from, and I'm sure we would love to hear from you about where we're going in the future. But for now, I'd just like to pass back to Lara, to talk about how we can move on this change process together. So Lara, please let me know when you want to move to your slides.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm just wondering before we move on, if there are any questions or anything that needs clarification either on the platform or the areas of provision that we have shown here. Okay, so we'll move on. Thanks, Michelle. So as Michelle mentioned, there's been a lot of work already started that will contribute to how we conceive, develop, and implement this platform. And we're learning a lot about what's required by what we've done so far. So we've welcomed hubs and supported them through incubation, and that's already teaching us a lot, and we're learning a lot about what the requirements are and where hubs see their contribution. The services that we've already started to provide, those are of course giving us some insight into what is needed and what might the platform be utilized for. And our network development team is doing a fantastic job working with hubs and consulting with them on what's required and where they see their contribution. And as Michelle said, we've started to propose a governance design. And all of this is giving us some really good intelligence and really good information about what this platform needs to be and how it needs to be created and deployed and implemented, so that we achieve the network of network outcome. Michelle, if you can pop to the next slide. So we've got a bit of a job ahead of us because the platform is central, as Michelle was saying, to the vision of building this locally led humanitarian system. And we know that we are going to have to digitally transform and get comfortable with that and all that it entails, the digital transformation. But perhaps the most important shift that's going to have to happen and challenge that continues to present us is the mindset shift. And that's really how this links into the key theme of this assembly, because we're actually building and developing and creating a platform. It's being conceived and evolved really in the context of, as we know, still steeped in colonialism and racism. And so we heard really powerfully, those of you who were at the lunchtime session, that this system still perpetuates. And so we are challenged with building a platform that's going to counter this. and that won't perpetuate the system that we're currently seeing in parts of our sector. So ultimately, if one of the purposes of us is system change, then we need to constantly ask ourselves how we make sure that the platform that's being evolved is really transformational. And we need to challenge ourselves to ensure that the platform enables this network of networks to engage with each other with true parity, where power and decision-making is really meaningfully shifted, and that we engage on true principles of partnership working. And so this platform, although it is an infrastructure, a process, a system, unless it dismantles the way we're currently operating, it will not take us in the direction that we need to go. And that's a challenge to us daily. Chenor spoke about the language that we use, and Michelle's already talked about some of the language that we've been challenged on, and some of our thinking that's already being challenged. And one of the things at lunchtime that Chenor said, which I loved, was, how do we try work ourselves out of our own existence? And to some extent, this platform is part of that journey, and we need a plan for that. So one of the reasons that we really need meaningful engagement from you, from hubs, from communities, is that we build this platform based on a different system, and that it doesn't perpetuate this, paternalistic and colonial system that we're under. So Michelle, if we move to the next slide, we thought it might be useful for just to share some of the complexities that we're navigating as we try to transform systems through the platform, and as we try and be conscious and purposeful about what we're trying to create and evolve. And we've come across a lot of internal tensions and polarities and spectrums that we're working with as we develop this platform. So on the left, you'll see that one of the first is how we shift our mindsets from supporting an infrastructure where all the support and the solutions come from the center to a peer network. There is absolutely a commitment that Start Network as the organization, as Michelle said, will not be providing the solutions and the services to hubs. We might be doing some of them for some of the time, but the vision is that there is an interconnected peer network of hubs, where hubs will be providing support, solution, learning to each other. Hubs might specialize in a particular area and provide that solution on a network-wide basis. And the platform will facilitate this integrated solutions that will be coming from different parts of the hub family. And so as we conceive and design this platform, we need to have a think and consider, how does that actually work in practice? How do we build a mechanism that really creates this network of networks' ability to share, bring their own expertise, bring their own contribution, use their assets, use their strengths, and that this platform facilitates that process. Some of the other tensions that we're kind of grappling with at the moment is the balance between what hubs and members need in the short-term requirements, and what perhaps will be needed in the long term. Because what we don't want to do is build something or create or develop, co-create something that meets a short-term solution but causes a long-term problem. And at the same time, we don't want to conceive and build something that addresses long-term requirements without short-term requirements being met. And so there's this tension as we think about what this platform is going to look like. And for example, at the moment, resource mobilization, finance, fundraising is still coming very much from the center in the short term. Long term, that is very unlikely to be the case. And so we need to develop and evolve a platform that meets both needs, and sometimes they could conflict with each other. We're also conscious that different hubs will require and will bring different things and contribute in different ways. And so there will be requirements that are different, and there will be contributions that are different. And again, we are grappling with how we build a hub that meets these different needs, with parity, with equity, and not in a paternalistic way. And finally, there will be some services, some support and solutions that are aggregated and that are network-wide and supported on for the global network, and some that hubs will develop and do on their own for local communities in their local context that won't be network-wide. And at the moment, we're identifying together with hubs and stakeholders which ones are going to be most useful to be aggregated and deployed through the platform, and which ones will be centralized centralized, and which will be decentralized and delivered straight through the hubs. And what will that centralized and decentralized tension look like, and how do we balance that? And so these are some of the complexities that we're navigating as we evolve the design and then the implementation of the platform. And there will be others as we start to speak more and talk more with hubs, with stakeholders and interested groups. So I'm going to stop there for a minute. I don't know, Heather, if there's any questions or any thoughts that are emerging that anyone would like to ask at this point.
There's not any questions at the moment.
Great, we'll wait till the end. Okay, so as we were saying, the task ahead is an exciting and innovative one, evolving and bringing into existence a platform underpinned by anti-racist and decolonization, and something that will create parity and equity. So Michelle, if you can move on to the next slide, please. So what's our proposed next step? We've already done a lot of work, and between now and February, what's coined the discovery phase, we will continue to consult, to hopefully have small group discussions. We've started to speak to the hubs. Michelle had a session with some hub representatives already, and we've got the build session, which we hope many of you will be able to attend on Thursday. And between now and February, it's really for us to gather more intelligence, to understand more the requirements, to try and balance and understand how we navigate some of these tensions and possible spectrum conflicts. And we hope by February to have enough for us to start what we call the design sprint, where we will start to conceive a design, where we will start to look at almost a prototype of what this platform could start to look like in practice, and start to imagine what the different aspects of the platform will be and how they will be delivered, whether it's digitally, whether it's in groups, whether it's through translation, and how that the platform will actually operate. This is by no means going to be the whole story. This platform will evolve continuously. And so between March and September, we anticipate doing what we call a test and learn phase, where we'll be coming out, speaking to hubs, building probably parts of it, constructing some of it. There might be some sessions where we have peer learning, see how that peer learning goes. We'll be innovating and prototyping and testing various ways that this platform is facilitating engagement between all the different hubs. And we hope by the Assembly 2022 to bring and present an operating model design based on this testing phase and the consultation and feedback phase. And that will continue to iterate, that will continue to evolve as our hubs evolve, and as the system just hopefully starts to change. So we need engagement, and we welcome and want challenge. Part of system change again is being pushed out of our comfort zone and having those uncomfortable conversations, and we need to have them over the course of next year if this platform is going to really be transformational. So Michelle, the last slide, if you can. So how can you get involved? So as Michelle has said, we have the build session on the 18th of November, and it's a couple of hours where we will start to unpack a little bit more the solutions and support that we think the platform, the aggregated services on the platform will be providing. We would really be grateful if you share this presentation and what you've heard today with colleagues and communities, so people are aware of the direction of travel and where we're going. And then we've got this design sprint, and we would really welcome participation and engagement in that. So if you are interested, we'd be really grateful if you could leave your contact details in the chat or send them to Michelle or myself or Helen or anyone in the network development team, and we'll get engaged at that stage. And then finally, we'll have this the test and learn phase, where we will be coming out to hubs and stakeholders to test and learn and get some feedback. So that's the process. We know that it's not an easy journey, and we hope to be challenged. We know it'll take us out our comfort zone, but this mechanism and this facility, the platform, is such a huge innovation and such a critical part of the system change that we want to bring about. So we look forward to journeying with you on this and seeing where the platform takes us. So we'll pause there for some questions and see if there's any insights or questions before any reflections. Got about 15 minutes.
There's one from Kat. She says, it'd be helpful to learn a bit more about the design sprint, time commitment, what the ask will be, if you know, which you might not yet.
Great question, thank you. So we've got Helen with us. And I wonder, Helen, if you would be up for answering that one.
Thanks, Laura. The design sprint that we're currently trying to organise will involve a number of sessions. Primarily, they will be sessions including members of the team, members from the hubs, the hub leadership, and also we're keen to get some other stakeholders from across the network involved in those sessions. We're currently looking at 2 sessions, so not a huge time commitment, but there will be lots of other ways to get involved as well. We're looking at having a number of interview sessions with individuals to dig a bit deeper and really understand needs of the hubs in terms of the types of solutions that will be needed across the network. And we'll also have other ways that people can engage as well if people don't have a huge amount of time commitment. So polls or surveys or other opportunities like joining or watching webinars, for example. So we're looking at designing those that design sprint now with lots of different ways to engage for people with different levels of time availability and with different levels of, I guess, interest or different types of interest in how they can support this work as well as engaging in that design sprint to tell us more about what would be needed across the network as it evolves. There might be other ways to get involved in testing, in helping us test, in helping us build some of these different solutions that might be offered as well. So we'll be looking to design more of that. And as you mentioned in your question, Kat, some of this we don't yet know, and some of these things we're going to be discussing in the build session in a couple of days. We are really looking to understand exactly how members and how hubs want to be involved in this process. And so a lot of that is still to be designed, but we want to make this a co-creation. We don't just want to go away and build something and come back and present it. This will be a co-creation, and so we want to make it as inclusive as possible. But I hope that gives you just a sense of what will be happening. But come along to the build session and help us design that even further.
Thanks, Helen. There's a question here. Are there existing examples or models of decentralized and devolved or even decolonized networks that we can learn from? Which is a brilliant question. And we will be looking to good practice and drawing in from good practice. But we would welcome, if there's anyone in listening to this who has any suggestions. I mean, do you know of any networks that are decentralized and devolved that we can learn from? And if there are any, please do share them with us. We have a few that we can be looking at, but if anyone knows of any, we would really welcome that. And it'll definitely be part of the discovery phase where we'll be looking at good practice. Helen, I'm wondering if there's anything you'd like to add from what Michelle and I said about the platform and some of the kind of tensions that we've been experiencing as we start to conceive it and develop it.
Well, I think you summed it up really, really well, Lara. I think there are many different challenges that we're grappling with, and I think the challenge now will be to really understand what the hubs need and where they want us to spend our time developing those network-wide solutions in the short term, while also keeping a real clear vision of what the long-term piece looks like. I think the biggest struggle is understanding how we move in the right direction while building the pieces that we need in the short term and not derailing us from our vision. I think the point about looking and learning from other decentralized networks that exist. I'm not sure if there are any decentralized and decolonized networks, but if there are, I think we'd absolutely would really like to learn from those. But I think absolutely the biggest challenge, or the biggest challenge in my mind, is around keeping us on track in terms of the vision, while also meeting the immediate needs across the network.
Great, thanks. Vincent's asked a question. Could you please give some examples of the actual tensions and challenges the team is facing in undertaking this organizational transformation? So one thing, for example, since is this idea of, we're building something or evolving something in the short term or the long term. And some people might imagine that in the long term, Start Network as an organization will actually deliver nothing. provide nothing, maybe just the infrastructure and translators, let's say, hypothetically. In 10 years' time, that might be what Start Network does, is holds this infrastructure, holds this mechanism, and does nothing else but provide a mechanism for people to talk to each other through translators. And actually, the hubs and stakeholders and communities are providing all the solutions and all the support. And that might be a model that we might move to. Others are thinking, well, it's, you know, what will it take to move to that model, and how challenging is that in the short term for us to build something if that's the end result? And others are thinking that's not the end result. There's still a huge role for Start to play. And so we have these discussions. And one thing, again, about thinking about the lunchtime session that Chenol mentioned, is one of the most critical things is that we can be transparent and have these uncomfortable and challenging discussions. And at this point, there's no right or wrong answer. But having those complex discussions is part of how we're going to shift and change both the platform and the system. So that's one small example of what we're grappling with. You know, what does it look like in 10 years, and what does it look like in 18 months? And how do we build for that? Helen or Michelle, I don't know if there's any other examples that you'd like to give.
I think for me, thank you, Lara, I think it's about that mindset shift. It's really all of us, especially when we're in the middle of it, thinking beyond what's going to happen tomorrow and what's going to happen the day after and what's going to happen in the build session, to actually being courageous, living those values that we talk about and that we write down, as you know, and we communicate. And as you said, Lara, I think we're going to have to work outside our comfort zones. Otherwise, we will end up building what we've built before. And I think that point about learning from the members, learning from the hubs, learning from other networks will be absolutely crucial, so that we can support ourselves to make that mindset shift and not just do what we've always done. So we really, really value other opinion and differing perspectives on it, actually, as we go through this journey.
Helen, anything that you'd like to add before we look at some of the other questions?
Well, one of the things that I was thinking of that actually comes up a little bit in some of the other questions that I've seen is around the capability that the platform will need, the capability that we have now, the capability that we will need in the short term, and the capability that we will need over the long term. And how do we work through that transition to how we imagine the end state or the future Start Network platform as it will continue to evolve. So that for me is one of the really practical challenges. We need to start thinking about how do we bring in that capability now, particularly if Lara, as you mentioned, the long-term idea for the platform could just be that we provide translation services and connection services. If that is the case, then we would need very different capability than the capability we have now. So at what stage do we start to build that? And in order to really understand what the network needs to be over the long term, we really need to understand that from more and more hubs as more and more hubs emerge. We have 5 hubs at the moment who have learned a lot over the proof of concept phase. And we have more and more hubs that are emerging. And all of those hubs will be delivering different things. They will require different things from a platform, and they will want to engage with different hubs in different ways. And so understanding that capability shift that the platform will need and how we transition to the capabilities that we have now to to those functionalities or those functions that we would need in the future is one of the really practical challenges that my team, and I know you, Lara, as head of people and culture, is one of the really practical challenges.
Yeah, thanks, Helen. And I think, you know, when we're talking about long-term visions, we are talking 10, 20 years because, you know, we don't know how long it will take to shift. We hope it takes less than that. But there's a question about I think there was some human resource while the platform retains. You know, in the short term, whatever we talk about, short term, 5 to 6 years, there is an expectation at this stage that Start Network as a network will continue to evolve. We will have more and more staff perhaps dispersed and placed with hubs and placed with members, and we're looking at that as a structure and how that works. And we are learning about how to have a dispersed team and how to make sure that we continue to provide the support that we need, but from different parts of the world and no longer based in the UK. So yes, that human resource support will absolutely continue as we evolve and we build the platform. That at this stage, there's no expectation that will change. We've got another 4 or 5 minutes. If there's any other questions. There's a question about what will be the value add of Start in 10 years. That's a great question, and I'm not sure we know the answer today to that. And that's part of this journey, I suppose, that we're going to have to take. And the networks and the hubs will tell us that. Helen, Michelle, I don't know what your thoughts are on that question.
Well, that's essentially what we want to start discussing in the build session, isn't it, in a couple of days? So join the build session and tell us what you think. We know the value add of Start Network today. We know the strategy. We know the elements of the system that we're trying to change. And the question is, how will that evolve over the next 10 years? Will we identify other problems in the humanitarian system that we want to change? We are a systems change organisation, essentially. We're not a financing organisation or an innovation organisation or an organisation that is here to just service our members. We are a systems change network, and that should be the value add across the network as we continue to evolve. But underneath that will mean that the network may do many, many different things in the next 10 years. So come along to the build session and tell us what you think.
We've got a couple of minutes left. If anybody's got any final insights, comments, reflections, questions. And remember, if you're not able to make the build session, but you do want to be involved with the test and learn and the design sprint, I just want to know more. If you could let Heather know in the chat your contact details, we can make sure that we contact you afterwards and we can follow up with you then.
I suppose in conclusion, maybe just to reiterate that we don't have the answers yet to many of these questions. And we've been grappling with them ourselves. As Helen says, there are some things we know and we are sure of, and our purpose is absolutely unchangeable. But we do need the engagement to work it out as we go along. And Christina and Suzanne often talk about building the plane while we're flying. And we will be doing that with the platform. And the platform, what it looks like, next year is likely to be very different to what it looks like in 4 and 5 and then 10 years, because what the hubs and the requirement of the network and the family of network will evolve and change, and so will the platform. So yeah, we're in this for a longer term. It's not a short-term fix.
Okay, so Helen, can I just check with you that the recording of the presentation will be available at some point? And remember that if you would like to see a little bit more, you can head over to our Learn Corner, where you'll see a poster and more information. You can also head over to the Strategy and Leadership Corner, where there's our strategy 2021-2023, if you'd like to learn more about our vision, mission and objectives. But in the meantime, I'd just like to say thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much, Heather, again, for moderating. Helen, thanks so much. And Lara, it's been a pleasure working with you today. Thanks again, and we'll see you on Thursday. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.